Calculating numbers subject to in a real estate investment property or deal. Hey gang, this is Mike with MrNoFluff.com, and today I have an exciting meeting for you. I'm going to be talking about calculating, I'm going to be talking about calculating the numbers on a subject to deal. Okay, now I'm going to talk about if you're an investor, being like you're a buy and hold investor. I'm going to talk about how to calculate the numbers if you're a wholesaler on a subject to deal. I'm also going to talk about how to calculate the numbers if you're a fix and flipper when you're dealing with subject to. Now, let me define what a subject to is. A subject to is where the seller, the homeowner, the real estate house owner becomes your bank. Again, what the seller becomes your bank. Therefore, the investor, like myself or you or anyone else is out there, not financial advice, you don't have to go to a bank to get a loan. So simply put, a subject to is where I buy properties from homeowners where I step into their shoes and take over their mortgage if they have mortgages. If they don't have mortgages, that's even better. I allow the seller to become my bank. So that's what I mean about calculating the numbers on a subject to. Basically, calculating the numbers on a seller financing real estate deal. Now, there's three types of people I'm going to talk about. The first type of people I'm going to talk about are wholesalers. Okay, if you're a wholesaler, how do you need to calculate the numbers? Now, let's define what a wholesaler is. A wholesaler is someone that does not have their own money. Okay, and they may have good credit, they may not have good credit, or they may have money. But what they're doing with the wholesaling deal is what I call pushing papers. What that means is they're spending money in marketing. They're spending time in finding and filtering motivated sellers, and they're negotiating a deal, and then they're signing a real estate purchase contract, what I call pushing papers. They're just signing a real estate purchase contract, and then turn around and they sell that contract to an actual fix and flipper, to an actual landlord, to an actual retail buyer that wants to buy it. It depends on the exit strategy on the wholesaler. So simply put, a wholesaler is someone that buys something and quickly turns around and sells it. But the crazy thing is, when I say they buy something, they don't really buy it. All they do is just put a placeholder. They sign a contract, and when they sign that contract, they may only put $1 up. They may only put $10 up. Um, as consideration. Okay, and so they're not putting thousands of dollars down, like two or three or five. They're not putting 10 grand or 100K down. They're not even needing the purchase price. They don't need to borrow money from a bank or a hard money lender or anything like that, because they're not closing on the deal. They're actually just finding the deal, negotiating it, putting it under contract like they're going to buy it, and then they're going to sell their positioning to some other individual, usually an investor, but it doesn't have to be. And that investor is going to go ahead and bring the cash to closing. So that's what a wholesaler is. Wholesaler is very, very powerful positioning, because you have to have the skills to find the deals in marketing. You have to have the skills in negotiation, have skills in how to structure these deals. If you're interested in getting these skills, then you might consider joining my profit sharing coaching at profitsharing.mrnofluff.com. Okay, so we're going to be talking about how wholesalers need to do the numbers to make profit. The other thing I'm going to be talking about is how landlords need to do the numbers to make a profit when they're dealing with subject to properties. Okay. And last but not least, I'm going to be talking about how fix and flippers, okay, how can they use seller financing to, fund their fix and flip projects? Because a lot of fix and flippers that been my students, they didn't realize the seller could finance the deal for them. They had to go get the money from a hard money lender, or they have to save the money themselves, or they had to borrow from friends and family. Either way, they didn't realize the seller could become their bank for them if they don't have a mortgage or if they have a mortgage. So today I'm going to be talking about the numbers that the fix and flipper needs to have to be able to have the seller be the bank. So the investor, doesn't matter if you're a wholesaler, you're a landlord, you're in fix and flipper, that investor doesn't have to go to a bank, doesn't have to have good credit, doesn't need to have a pile of cash. Okay. So before we get started, I need to do a little house cleaning. And first of all, guys, I want to let you know that you should definitely join my discussion forums. It's free, guys. There is no cost to it. I'm on there. A lot of my students are on there. If you're into gold, if you're into real estate, if you're an entrepreneur and you love these topics, then you should definitely, and cryptocurrencies, of course, then you should definitely join. It's totally free. Go to community.mrnofluff.com. The other thing I wanted to touch up on, guys, is that if you're interested in joining the Real Estate Investor Internet Club, we meet every Saturdays right from your computer. I bring you killer content. I'll bring you other speakers that are successful entrepreneurs, successful attorneys, etc. And in our meetings, if you just want to join and try us out, it's only a freaking dollar, guys. A dollar will get you started. The other thing I want to touch up on is, guys, before we dive in, is that if you want to get access to my best-selling courses, my courses like the Mother course, like my VA Exponential, where I teach you how to hire VAs for $120 a month for them to work 40 hours a week for you. So that's roughly about 75 cents an hour, guys. 75 cents an hour, you can have a college educated individual working for you full times in the Philippines and India and Pakistan. I show you how to do it. I give you the workbooks, all that stuff. You get all my courses. There's like 16, 15 courses in the academy, and you just get it for a low price right now. We're having a flash sale of $67 a month, guys. No commitments, no contracts, nothing, okay? And last but not least, if you're interested in structuring these deals, what I'm about to get into, then you might want to check out Profit Sharing, guys. It's all it is $14.97 a year, guys, or $250 a month. Okay, one or the other. Okay, of course, it's a lot cheaper when you commit for the whole year, just less than $14.97 a year, or you can just do a monthly subscription for $250 a month. Okay, that's enough cleaning house. Let's get started. Here's the meat and the potatoes, guys. Okay, so if you're a wholesaler and you're working subject twos, you have to understand what is your exit strategy. That's the most important part. Before you do anything, what is your exit strategy before that investor buys the property? When I look at the property, the very first thing I look at is what is my exit strategy. And as a wholesaler, okay, I'm going to have two types of audiences, okay, maybe three, but the two primary are what I call fix and flippers, okay, and these are basically cash. And the other thing, my audience is what I call terms investors, okay. These are more like landlords, okay, and people that create, owner financing notes and etc. Okay, so these are landlords. So you have two types of audience. You have the uh, cash and the terms. So I want to make sure as a wholesaler, the exit strategy is, hey, I'm going to buy it deep enough so I can give it to a fix and flipper, and I'll talk about the numbers in a minute, or I'm going to get a term where the seller becomes my bank, my lender, and then I'm going to find an investor that's a landlord and loves to buy houses like terms. Like that's what I do. I'm a landlord buy and hold guy, and I do terms. Okay, I'll do cash too, but I'm not a fix and flipper. Okay, I want to. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's move forward. So as long as you know that there, as a wholesaler, there's two types of audiences. We do have the third one, which is called retail. But normally, as an investors, we don't really work with them unless you know what you're doing. So I'm not going to talk about this one. I'm just going to talk about the cash and the terms. Now, the whole overview of this course is about, excuse me, it is about calculating numbers on a subject to deal. Okay. So when I'm talking to a seller, I'm thinking about what is my exit strategy, very first thing. Because depending on the house, depending on the condition of the house, the amount of repairs the house may need, also it depends on the um, level of equity the seller may have. My exit strategy will differ. Now, one of the problems is most wholesalers just have one, they only know how to hit the ball one way. So if the pitcher throws a fastball, they know how to do a fastball all day long. They don't know how to do a curveball, they don't know how to hit a softball, they don't know how to, they don't know how to hit different types of balls is what I'm trying to get to. Same thing with wholesalers. They only know one exit strategy, and it's usually the fix and flipper, which is a cash deal. Okay, um, where what I'm going to show you right now is how to have multi-dimensional audiences, and so you can understand how an investor like myself understands the different exit strategies, different types of audiences. So when I'm talking to a seller, I can solve their problem and give them a solution with an exit strategy that I already can foresee. Okay, so when I look at a deal and I'm calculating the numbers on a subject to deal, and if I was going to wholesale the deal, a couple of things that I will look for is that makes it a deal. Because if you only know how to hit a fastball only, the other ideas are not going to make sense to you. Okay, so as an investor, the very first thing I look for is the price. What price am I getting? Which is every wholesaler out there in the world, every academy is talking about that. What price am I going to be getting it for? Okay, but as an investor for like myself, that's an insider that works with homeowners direct, I look for other things too. Okay, the other things that I'm looking for are terms. What are the terms on this property? Okay, another thing that I'm looking for is cash flow. Okay. For example, if if I meet a motivated seller, let's say they're divorced or they're behind on their payments or they moved out and they bought another home, whatever it is, they made a motivated sellers. Because as an investor, our audience main category are what's called motivated sellers. We don't work with unmotivated sellers. We don't work with people that just want to sell their home or testing the waters. No, we only deal with people that must sell their home, and they're called motivated sellers. Okay, so if I talk to a home seller and they're highly motivated, they moved out, maybe there's a death in the family, they moved out, the house is vacant, they're making payments. The very first thing I look is what is their monthly payments, because I want to know if this thing cash flows. Why do I want to know if this cash flows? Because that's one of my exit strategies. If the property cash flows, then I can always exit it with a landlord. Remember I talked about earlier that there's basically two types of audiences. And so one of the types is the landlord. So if the property cash flows, then I could always flip it to, without buying the property, just pushing paper, getting it under contract, and turn around and selling that contract to an investor like myself that wants to be a landlord. So the very first thing I do is when I'm talking to the home seller, I want to know what their uh, PITI is. Okay, so if their monthly payments, including tax and insurance, is $1,000, okay, a month. The next thing I want to do, once I figured that information out, and we usually have a series of questions that we ask them. In my profit sharing coaching, is mandatory that my students download the Ninja phone script. Okay, if you're not in the profit sharing, you go to my website and download it. But if you're part of the member, you save a lot of money. But anyways, the Ninja phone script has a series of questions that we ask these sellers to help us determine the exit strategy without even driving to look at the property, without spending any major times sitting in traffic, etc. So in the Ninja phone script, we ask the seller what is their monthly payments. Okay. Then the next thing we do is what I do is, and what I teach my student is that they gotta run the comps really quick. One website that they can use is go to Rentometer. So they go to Rentometer, okay, .com, and they'll just type in the address of the property, how many bedrooms and bathroom it has, and they'll analyze the rents in the area and quickly tell you what you can get for this house. So let's say I go to Rent-A-Meter, I could go to Zillow, I could go to Trillia. There's other websites out there that has a rental estimate, and I'll do like 4 or 5 different websites and then average them out. So let's say I do that and I average it out, and this property will rent for $1,700 a month. Okay, why is the payment so low? Because we have ultra low interest rate today at almost 0%. And let's say the seller got to finance their home like 3 years ago, ultra low interest rate, $1,000 a month. The rental comps in the area are $1,700 a month. Then right off the bat, I know that this can be a deal no matter if the price is high, okay, if no matter if the seller is not willing to negotiate, because I can cash flow this property massively, okay? So right off the bat, I can use this deal, talk to the seller, and make money off of it. Now, what I want to do is have three checks. This one is a check because it cash flows positively. Now, I want to have three checks, okay, and I'll talk about it. But as long as I have one check in this quadrant, then I can do the deal. I have three checks right, three options, and the more checks I have, the better the deal is, aka a home run. If I have one check, it might be just a baser or a walk or like two baser. If I have two checks, then it becomes more powerful deal. If I have three checks, then it's a home run. Okay. Now let's go to the price, what everyone's so concerned about. Where what I teach at profit sharing and what I do is I'm not too conscious or sensitive, I should say, that's the word for it, sensitive on the price. If the seller wants to sell at full price, I can do it, okay? And as long as it passes the two other checkpoints that I'm going to talk about, okay? One of the checkpoints that we already talked about is the cash flow part of it. Now, if the seller doesn't is not too price consciousness and they're willing to come down, then that's even better. I mean, I want to buy houses at 50, 60 cents on a dollar, for Christ's sake, okay? I don't want to pay full price for properties. No one does. But some sellers do not want to sell their home that cheap, or they cannot because they have debt in place, okay? So as an investor, my job and what I teach my students is to solve problems, okay? And try to create win-win situations where you don't win and the seller doesn't win, and that's what a win-win is, okay? Because a compromise is what negotiation is. No one gets to win, okay? Now, let's talk about the next checkpoint. All right, the next checkpoint is that, well, you know what, guys? Um, if you guys want to listen to the remaining of this audio, then I highly recommend go to our discussion forum. I'm just going to upload the video there, guys. So if you want to listen to the remaining of the video, just go to community. It's free. Log in. You'll get an email link to sent to you after you submit in 24 hours or less. Usually it's like 30 minutes or less, but if you don't find it, look in your spam box, and then I'll post the video there. You can take a look at the whole. Remember, we're going to go in the terms, we're going to go in the price, we're going to talk about landlords, we're going to talk about fix and flips. So if you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, click the like button. But this is the end of the road, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get the full video, go to our community. It's going to be there. It's totally for free. And thank you so much for watching. Click the like button and see you later.